Alright, so as many of you have already heard, gun control London has surpassed New York in murders. You hear that, Piers Morgan? In February, there were 15 murders investigated in London versus 14 murders investigated in New York. This is according to the London's Metropolitan Police Service and the New York Police Department. In March, just this past month, there were 22 murders investigated in London versus 21 reports of murder investigated in New York. Now, this is just the latest in bloodshed in London. Right now in London, gun crime is up 42%, despite having millions and millions and millions and millions and millions less guns than New York. Now, as you can see here on this graph here, London versus New York in murders in 2018, and we can only expect London's murder rate to increase. Now, as you already probably know, they had a 1997 handgun ban there. Gun control there in London is some of the most strict in the entire world. Knife crime there in London and in the UK as a whole is through the roof. As I've showed you in a couple other videos, they're actually having knife amnesty programs in the UK. They're having to ban particular knives in the UK, talk about banning tip knives in the UK. They're banning knife shipments in the UK. They're having age minimums for people to purchase knives in the UK, even plastic utensil knives. They're having bins on corners to turn in your knives. They're building 100-foot sculptures of angels made out of all the crime knives in the UK. And not to mention, they're sending people to talk to students at schools that have metal detectors about knife crime and knife control.
At the entrance, there's a scanner to stop any weapons coming in.
But why do you think someone's going to carry a knife on the street as a weapon?
To protect yourself from others.
And today the pupils are also hearing from Constable Rob Pedley. He's in different schools every week as part of a campaign by West Midlands Police to try to turn teenagers away from the knife culture.
If you've got your kitchen drawer at home, take out one of the little sharp knives, and you're carrying the country's #1 murder weapon. It's not the gun, it's the knife.
Now, in the state of New York, there are about 4.5 million guns in New York, 4.5 million legally owned guns in New York, and let's go to The Guardian to see how many legally owned guns there are in London itself, which is very comparable in population to New York. They're almost identical populations. 51 legally owned guns in London. As you can see right here, 51 legally held guns in 2010 to 2011 in the city of London. That is a scratch on the surface of the amount of guns that are in New York. Now, if you look at Britain and the UK, and especially London as a whole, if you look at the ethnic change that has been happening in London, the white population in London has fallen by more than 20%. If you look at just from 2001 to 2011, the white British population has fallen by about 20% there. And if you look at reports by The Sun references multiple reports that show that the white British population has fallen by more than half in just 20 years in parts of the UK as the country becomes more segregated. They say that white people are leaving some towns at record rates as ethnic minorities move in. Multiple studies show the government is urging white British residents to remain in urban areas such as Whitechapel, East London, and they're telling them to remain where they are. Because as they're moving out, the city is getting more and more dangerous, more diverse, more people are moving in, and it's mostly young people of non-white British descent who are causing most of the knife crime, stabbing people with machetes, carrying knives, stabbing people with knives. It says here during a 10-year period, the number of white residents in Newham, East London, dropped from 33% to 16.7% in those particular areas. The study by diversity researcher Professor Ted Cantle found some white people felt where they lived was no longer for them. Basically no longer safe for them. He said white people are leaving urban areas in a disproportionate number and avoid moving to diverse areas when they do move. So they talk this big game, right? These people from Britain, they talk this great game, and then they move out, and it's this phenomena of white flight that we all know exists, right? We all see it in the Northeast especially, where they have the most lax gun laws, as I've stated in many videos, like in Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Idaho, the North, essentially where it's 90% white in those states. They have the most lax gun laws in those states, yet they're the safest states per capita in the country to live, per capita. So population doesn't matter. Those are the safest states, most lax gun laws, most white population in those states, and you can see people moving from the southern ring to the northern ring, and these people, these white liberals, they talk a big game, they talk about diversity, but they move up there and they don't want to, admit that fact. And this is what's going on in Britain here, in London, and the UK, and, hey, they're going after the knife now. I'm sure that we're going to see many people in the government of London especially. We're going to have to see what Sadiq Khan does here, cracks down on knives, maybe more knife amnesty programs, maybe some more knife buyback programs, some mandatory buyback programs of kitchen knives. Maybe that will work. But yeah, it's so weird that you see only 51 legally owned guns in London, yet you have the Metropolitan Police figures showing that there were 2,500 gun crime offenses from April 2016 to April 2017. Can it be that the people who legally own guns don't cause crime, much like it is here? Can it be, just like MSNBC states correctly, that only 3 or 4% of all guns that are involved in crimes here are actually legally purchased?
True that only 3% of murders and crimes are committed with guns from people who actually purchase those guns. Isn't this a big trafficking problem too?
Sure.
Can it be the decline in white population and the incline in immigrant population from third world shitholes coming into your country? Can it be that? You can't arrest me, London. You can't arrest me, UK. I'm in the US and I can talk all the shit I want because it's funny to me. Now, the death is not funny, but it's hilarious to me to hear Piers Morgan talk all this crap about how America should turn in their guns, to hear the BBC talk all this crap about how America should turn in their guns. I did a video response to that video, by the way, by the BBC. You could check it out. It's on this channel. To see that only 51 guns in London versus 4.5 million guns in New York, and you have the higher murder rate, you have more murders in London. It's hilarious to see. Paging Piers Morgan. BBC reports that the Metropolitan Police continue to focus on reducing stabbings by taking weapons and dangerous offenders off the streets. Prevention and diversion from knife crime is key, the police say there. They go on to say that there are complex social reasons why more young people are carrying knives, and this cannot be solved by the police alone. We must work with communities to help combat knife crime. Gonna have to worry about gun crime too. It's up 42%. Worry about murders as a whole, and violent crime is through the roof in the UK as a whole. And gun control London beats New York in murders. Fascism comes to America, it will come under the guise of anti-fascism. Please go ahead and hit the like button on this video. It boosts the algorithm so that more people can actually see this video. Also subscribe and hit the bell button, and visit us on Patreon. Everything helps, even if it's just $1 a month. And once again, subscribe to our backup channel. The link is in the description.